This is the first episode for the truck series, and this is THES DFS. We don't have a whole lot to go off of this early in the week, so I'm just going to pull up the entry list, name the driver, name the team, name the sponsor, go over a little bit of track history for Kansas and Las Vegas, and that's really all we have to look at for right now. Starting with Hailie Deegan, she's in the David Gillen racing truck, Monster Energy as a sponsor. She made her truck debut at Kansas in 2020. She started 34th and finished 16th in that race while running 33% of her laps inside the top 15. In the 2021 race at Kansas, she started 20th and finished 13th while running 67% of the laps inside the top 15. She's had okay runs at Las Vegas in her two races here, but hasn't been able to finish strong. I think Las Vegas and Kansas are going to be her best tracks. I think this is her best chance to get a top 10, but keep it on the safe side. I think she'll get top 15, so if she starts outside the top 15, she's under like 7K. I'm going to have a lot of her probably. Going to move down to Kaz Grala. He doesn't have a sponsor yet. This is the Young Motorsports truck. This isn't a great truck. I think maybe it's 20th, 25th place truck. Kaz Grala is a wheelman though. He could potentially get this up to like 15th to 20th. It's going to depend on his price, but I feel like he's going to be overpriced, so I'm not going to have a whole lot of interest in him. Jordan Anderson, back in his own number 3 truck, no sponsor yet. He's probably just going to drive around. I'd be surprised if he finishes inside the top 25. It's probably going to be more like 25th to 30th at best, so not going to have much, if any, interest in him. John Hunter Nemechek. He's in the same KBM Toyota as last year. In the 2021 spring race, he started 3rd, led 94 of 134 laps, while collecting 33 fastest laps. He did manage to hold off the boss man, Kyle Busch, which is kind of a big deal when you're running these truck races, especially at Kyle Busch's home track of Las Vegas. And Kyle Busch was also the only other driver to have double-digit fastest laps that night. At the 2021 Kansas race, John Hunter Nemechek started 1st, led 16 laps while collecting 21 fastest laps, but only finished 5th. In the playoff race at Las Vegas, he started 1st, led the first 33 laps, but then lost the lead on pit road to Todd Gillen. He wasn't able to recover from that point on, and ended up actually having some mechanical issues that left him only running like half that race. I think it's going to be between John Hunter and Kyle Busch. That's where all your fastest laps and laps led are going to come from. Moving on to Blaine Perkins. He's in the CR7 Motorsports Cody Robar owned truck. This truck has never had a full-time driver. Last year, Grant Enfinger and Colby Howard were able to produce some top 15s, but they have a lot more experience than Blaine Perkins. Blaine Perkins has 8 starts in Xfinity last year. Basically just drove around in those races. His only truck start is this year at Daytona, so that doesn't really help us at all. Doesn't tell us anything. Doesn't really give him any useful experience in a truck either. He's going to have to log a bunch of practice laps, show speed in practice, and then qualify towards back for me to have any interest in him. Spencer Boyd, unless he shows me something in practice, I'm not going to have any interest in him. Tanner Gray. Also a David Gillen racing truck. He didn't really show much last year after having a solid rookie season in 2020, but he has put together a couple good runs at Kansas and Vegas. I think Gray is somebody who can finish in the top 10, potentially the top 5, but I don't see him having the speed to be a dominator. Gonna move down to Tyler Ankrum. I guess Tanner Gray has Ford Performance as a sponsor. Spencer Boyd has Hair Club as a sponsor, and that's a young murder sports truck as well. Blaine Perkins, Raceline as a sponsor. John Hunter Nemechek, Number 1 as a sponsor. And that catches us up as far as that. Tyler Ankrum Tyler Ankrum ran for GMS last year. GMS cut back to a 2-truck team to try and field a cup car. And in the process, Tyler Ankrum got tossed from his ride, landed in the Hattery race, number 16 truck. This is the truck that Austin Hill used to be in. This might actually be an upgrade, being that this truck is their Toyota. And last year, GMS was trying to put out 4 or 5 trucks every race, so this truck should get a little more focus and attention than what he was seeing last year. I like Ankrum to finish inside the top 10, top 5, potentially with some dominator points. And that's strictly because this Hattery number 16 has shown success as a team at Las Vegas and Kansas. So I'm kind of rating the truck here more than the driver. Tyler Ankrum is a decent driver though, so he has the Luna Union as his sponsor. Moving on to Ryan Preece. This is another David Gillen racing truck sponsored by United Rentals. And Ryan Preece drove this truck last year at Nashville and Pocono. He drove from 6th to win at Nashville, but only had 8 laps led and 11 fast laps in that race. At Pocono, he basically just rode around inside the top 10. I'll be playing Preece if he's less than like 8K. I think he can finish inside the top 10, potentially the top 5. I don't see him getting dominator points. I think those are all going to go to Kyle Busch. Moving down to Chandler Smith. He's still in the Kyle Busch Motorsports number 18. Safe Light Autoglass as his sponsor. And he's been more of a short track guy through his 39 career starts. He did have a pair of 5th place finishes at Kansas and Las Vegas in 2020, but wasn't able to put together any results in these races last year. I think he has potential to finish top 5 and score a couple fastest laps. Moving down to Derek Kraus. This is like kind of like a family car almost. Napa Auto Care is a sponsor. Kraus has had success at Kansas, but hasn't had very good luck in Vegas. In last year's fall race, he started 12th and finished 12th. That was his 4th start at Vegas and his only time finishing on the lead lap. His team has shown speed at times and had 3 top 10s in the 3 Kansas races in 2020. One of those was actually a top 5. I don't know how to feel about Kraus yet until I see his practice speeds. Top 10 potential is there, but I don't see him getting any dominator points. Before practice, I think he's like a 15th, 20th place truck, maybe top 15. It's just, this is one of them guys, it's kind of hard to figure out. Matt Mills. Apparently this is another young motorsports truck, JF Electric. I think it's a mid-20s truck at best. He's going to have to start way deep and be cheap. Most likely not going to have any interest in Matt Mills. Austin Wayne Self. This is a family-owned team. AM Technical Solutions as the sponsor. Have to look into that. I feel like there might be some team connection to that sponsor there. AWS has been around for a while now, though, and it's typically been a 15th to 20th place truck. He only has 13 top 10s in 130 races, but 2 of those were at Las Vegas, and one of them was this past fall. The deeper he starts, the more interest he'll have. I won't have very much interest if he qualifies inside the top 15. If he starts between like 15th and 20th, he'll have to be under 6K or so. It's just, I always end up playing Austin Wayne, so, but we'll have to wait and see. You'll hear that a lot this video. Wait and see. Grant Enfinger, driving for GMS with Champion Power Equipment as the sponsor. GMS cut back to 2 cars this year, or 2 trucks I should say, and I think that's going to be huge for Grant. Last year he showed he could drive an underfunded equipment when he drove the CR7 Motorsports Cody Robar truck to 2 7th place finishes at Las Vegas. He started 18th in one of those races and 23rd in the other, so he had to come up through the field. And he ran top 10 for pretty much the entire race. I think he's a top 5 car with his, or top 5 truck with his GMS equipment. And it's going to be hard for him to compete with the number 51, so I don't really see any dominator points coming out of him. But if he's cheapish, and by that I mean like somewhere in the 8K range, I'll be playing him quite a bit, I feel like. Jack Wood, another GMS truck. Sponsor is Chevrolet Truck Month, I guess. He ran 12 races last year and was terrible. The truck is arguably top 5 equipment, but it can't drive itself. He'll start way deep in the field and be cheap. Let me rephrase that. He'll have to start deep in the field and be cheap as hell for me to have interest in him. Other than that, probably not playing him. Moving on. Matty D. Poor Matty D, man. I hate seeing him in the truck series and poor equipment. This is the War Rackley truck that just came into the scene last season. This is Matty D's first time ever running trucks. Like I just said, this is a second-year team. It didn't have any speed last year. Josh Berry was the only guy who could get any results out of this truck. And Matty D is not Josh Berry. DraftKings will probably price him out of play due to his cup experience. But unless this team has shown huge strides in practice, I'm not gonna have any interest in playing Matty D. Rackley Roof and Warshocks is that sponsor, so they're sponsoring themselves here. Moving down to Tate Fogelman, this is the number 30 truck that Danny Bone and Brennan Poole have been in over the past couple years. They got Rangeline Group as their sponsor. I'd consider this truck an upgrade for Fogelman. It doesn't take much to be an upgrade from the young motorsports team that he has been in. The team has 2 top 10s at Las Vegas with Brennan Poole, so they can set up and build a car for this track. I actually think Fogelman is a little bit better than Brennan Poole. I could see him running around 15th, 20th, and potentially finishing like up around 15th, 14th. But we'll have to see practice speed, see where he qualifies, see what his price is, and go from there. Brett Holmes is in his family-owned team, Holmes Excavation as the sponsor. This team just recently, well, just last year, came out of the ARCA series. He had some success there. I think without Rex, he'll be lucky to finish 20th, 25th. See him more than likely finishing deeper in the field. Not going to have any interest in him unless he starts way deep and is super cheap. Zane Smith. This is the Front Row Motorsports number 38 that Todd Gillen was in these past couple years. Sponsor is Michael Roberts Construction. And I've liked Zane over the past 3 years, whether it was in the Junior Motorsports Xfinity car or the GMS truck. This Front Row Motorsports team is solid equipment. Todd Gillen had 10 top 5s and 16 top 10s last year and 22 starts. I think Zane is a lot better driver, though, than Todd Gillen, so I think he can be a top 5 truck consistently this year. It's hard to compare this equipment to his ride last year because GMS was trying to put out 4 or 5 trucks every week. This year, this has always been a one-team truck, as far as I know anyways. It's definitely a one-team truck this year. So I think all the focus and resources are going to be on Zane Smith. And Todd Gillen did dominate this race. Or, not this race, he dominated their fall race, which was a playoff race at Las Vegas. Todd Gillen led 66 laps and had 37 fastest laps that race. I like Zane to finish top 5, but it's going to be hard for him or anybody to compete with their Kyle Busch Motorsports trucks. Dean Thompson, he's in a Nice truck, Worldwide Express as the sponsor. He only had 1 start last year and didn't run inside the top 20 at all. His Daytona race ended with failed brakes. The Nice trucks just haven't been that great. Carson Hocevar and Ross Chastain are the only guys I've ever seen run well in these trucks. Dean Thompson is nowhere near that type of talent. I just don't see it. In all honesty, I'll be surprised if he finishes the race on the lead lap. Coming down to Carson Hocevar, he does not have a sponsor yet, which kind of surprises me. He's also in the same Nice Motorsports number 42 he was in last year. And last year he collected 3 top 5s and 8 top 10s and 22 starts. He ran towards the front here in the fall race and led a few laps. He has a chance to be a top 10 truck and could potentially grab a top 5. My NRS level will depend on his price and starting point, obviously. And, I don't have a whole lot more to say. I do like Carson Hocevar. He's the only Nice truck that I'm going to be playing. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Thad Moffitt, no sponsor. This is a Josh Rame or a Rame Brothers truck with GMS help. He only has this ride because he's Richard Petty's grandson and they have that GMS partnership. The equipment should be decent, but Thad Moffitt, we're just going to have to wait and see. Don't really have anything else to say on him. Chris Wright. This is another Nice Motorsports truck. Wright only has 18 races in a truck. He hasn't shown anything in those races. He does get a little bit of an upgrade in equipment, but it's still a Nice truck, and like I just said, the only Nice driver I trust is Carson Hocevar. Wallace Allen. This kid has quite the racing background, but he only has 9 races in a truck. He hasn't ran a 1.5 mile track yet. And I don't really have any interest in Wallace Allen. I'd really like to know where this name came from. Who names their kid Wallace? I have a feeling his dad came home one day, looked at his mom, and was like, "We're going to name our kid Wallace, and if you don't like it, I'll beat your ass." You have to be one weird bastard to decide you're going to name your kid Wallace. Moving on, Brennan Poole, Matt Jaskell, same team. Glory to God Racing is what this team's called. And they're going to need lots of prayers and lots of help from God to have any success here. I imagine these cars or these trucks start towards the back. They're going to have to be minimum salary. And even then, I'm probably not going to have any interest in them. Wait and see practice speed. I'm going to say that over and over and over again. Moving on, Kyle Busch. In the fantasy racing world, you have Kyle Busch, and then you have KFB. In the truck series, he's Kyle fucking Busch. He's ran 160 truck races. He's won 61 of them. And he's the all-time win leader in the truck series and will most likely hold that title for eternity. And I mean that literally. Ron Hornaday is the closest in wins at 51, and he's in his 60s. Hasn't raced in like 10 years. Mike Skinner, he's got 28 races. He's also in his 60s. Hasn't raced in I don't even know how long. Kyle Busch is the king when it comes to racing trucks. He's probably going to be priced up around like $14,000, and I'm still going to have a ton of him. Stuart Friesen. This is the Hallmark Racing. Hallmark International will be the sponsor. Oh my god. Statistically, Las Vegas is his best track, and this is going to be his third full season running Toyota, so that gives him a bump there. But this is going to be the first full season that he gets some form of practice that he has had a Toyota truck. So I think over time that's going to really pay off. Hopefully it pays off this week because I can see him having top 5 speed and getting some fastest lap points. Move down to Timmy Hill. This is Timmy Hill's own truck. He does not have a sponsor yet. He announced back in like December that he was going to run full-time trucks this year, and he has made the switch to Toyotas. I think that is a huge upgrade for Timmy Hill. I'm excited to see what kind of speed this team shows this year. And the Toyota trucks are just flat out better than the Chevys he was running. I think Timmy has talent. To run top 10. But we're going to have to wait, see what happens. But, as the saying goes, it's better to be early than late when it comes to fantasy sports. So I'm getting in on Timmy Hill early. It's going to pay off sometime this year. Hopefully that pays off this week. Chase Purdy. This is the second and new Hattery Racing truck. He has his typical Bama buggy sponsor. There's got to be some type of family connection there. I have no idea what it is, but if it was not for Bama buggies, Chase Purdy would not fucking exist. He's ran 30 races in 4 years, hasn't shown a fucking thing. He now hops into the Hattery number 61, like I just said. And normally the move to Toyota is an upgrade, but this is the first year for Hattery to field a second truck, and they weren't able to qualify at Daytona. I don't see any Chase Purdy being in my lineups. Moving on. Todd Bodine. Camping World as a sponsor. This is the second Hallmark truck that Jessica Friesen tried to run last year at the dirt races. I think this is going to be basically the same equipment as Stuart Friesen. Top 5 equipment. Todd Bodine. He's almost 60 years old. Hasn't raced in NASCAR since 2017. He hasn't raced a truck since 2013. The only reason he is trying to get back into it is so he can get 6 more starts and say he started 800 NASCAR races. If they don't price him insanely high, I'm going to have a lot of interest in him. He's a former 2-time champ. 2 wins would tie him for 5th on the all-time win list. I don't see a win coming this week, but it's top 10 equipment if he just drives around. So look for him to be in a lot of my lineups if he's not priced ridiculous. Ty Majeski, no sponsor yet. This is a Thor Sport truck, though. I've always liked watching Ty Majeski in the trucks. He's never had a full-time ride, but has done well given their sporadic seat time. He only has 4 starts last season, but drove from 31st to 7th, ran some of the fastest laps in his first start back, which came at Charlotte. That race was 38 weeks after being in a truck. He wasn't in Xfinity, wasn't in ARCA, wasn't in Cup, wasn't in any form of race car in that 38-week period. Now, he might have had some super late model races in there because he did win the 2020 Snowball Derby in that time frame. I'm going to go into detail about the Snowball Derby real quick here. It's a 300 lap, 25,000 win super late model race. It's one of, if not the biggest super late model race in the country. And that season when he won that race, some of the drivers in the field were Chandler Smith, Grant Enfinger, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Busch. So he can beat some big names. Some previous Snowball Derby winners are Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, and Eric Jones. Those guys have all three won this race 2 times. Christian Eckes, Chandler Smith, Noah Gragson, and John Hunter have all won it once. I really like Majeski and see him being a top 5 truck and could potentially mix in some fastest laps. I haven't seen any odds out yet, but I honestly think Ty Majeski is going to be a good long shot bet to win the championship. I'll also be keeping my eyes on his odds to win every week. And depending on what they are, I'm probably going to dump a little bit of money into that this week too, because I think they're going to be high. And actually, let's take a look at that real quick. Nope, no trucker Xfinity odds yet, but since I am on this, Tyler Reddick is on FanDuel at plus 4,200 to win the Cup race this week. I'm all in on that. I think that's a huge bet. Recommend it. But don't put anything on it that you are not willing to lose. Alright. To finish up Ty Majeski, really like him. Solid play. Top 5 truck. Potential to dominate. Well, potential to get fast laps. We'll go with that. Finish it there. We're done. Matt Crafton. Ha ha ha. This guy's a fucking joke. No sponsor. The same old 88 ThorSport truck he's been in. He's a 3-time champion, but it's a 22nd season. It's going to be his 500th start, but he only has 15 wins. That's a 3% win rate. 6 of those wins came back in 2015, so half of his wins came 7 years ago. But 3 of his wins came at Kansas, including his last win, which came in 2020. However, his last win on a 1.5 mile track before that was back in 2016. The guy has 140 more career truck starts than anybody to ever race in the truck series. But he only ranks 10th on the all-time win list. He's got a new crew chief this year. He has ran well at Las Vegas and Kansas, but he's not going to dominate. He'll have to start deeper in the field and be pretty cheap for me to have any interest in playing him. I don't see Matt Crafton working out. Colby Howard. I mean, Gates Hydraulics is his sponsor. Other than that, I have no idea what to think about this truck. Colby has shown he can drive, but we have no idea what type of equipment this is. I don't think he'll be priced very high. So if he starts towards the back and is cheap, I might have some of him. I think he himself is capable of a top 15, but I'll be surprised if this truck is capable of a top 25. So look for him to finish like in the back half of the field. That's what I'm thinking at this moment. Christian Eckes. He is in the he's back in the 98 Thor Sport truck. He does not have a sponsor yet, and he only ran 10 races last year, but he actually won the fall race at Las Vegas in this same truck. He only led 4 laps that race, but did put up 12 fastest laps, which was the second most. He also started 15th that race and had an average running position of 6, so he ran pretty well here last year. He has ran well at Kansas and Las Vegas in the few starts prior to last year. I think he's a top 5 car. I think he can get a couple fastest laps maybe. And that's just pretty much all I have to say. I will also say I think Kyle Busch Racing or Kyle Busch Motorsports screwed him over. He had a pretty decent rookie season with them back in 2020, I want to say. And then he was just left out to dry, I guess, really. And Las Vegas is Kyle Busch's home track. Kyle Busch is in this race. If I'm Christian Eckes, I want to beat that son of a bitch. Moving down, I mean, obviously you want to win every race, blah, 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 but this one would be extra sweet in my opinion. Ben Rhodes, he's in the same 99 Thor Sport truck he's been in for a while now. He won here back in 2017, but had the 3rd most laps led and 5th most fastest laps, so he didn't really dominate that race. And he's kind of starting to look like Matt Crafton Jr. to me. This is his 7th full-time season. He has 142 career starts and 5 wins. He's a top 10 truck, but he's not getting any Dominator points. That's all we have for the entry list. I do have some side notes I want to go over here real quick. Toyota has won 8 of the last 10 races at Las Vegas. 4 of those races were won by Kyle Busch Motorsports, and Hattery and Thor Sport had 2 wins each. Thor Sport also had a win back in 2018, but that was in a Ford. And then if you look at Kansas, Toyota has won 7 of the last 10 races. 5 of those were won by Kyle Busch Motorsports. Hattery and Thor Sport each had 1 win, and Thor Sport also had another win in 2020, but they were still running Fords at the time as well. This race is 134 laps, which is 33.5 laps led points and 60.3 fastest lap points. Before last year, there's been 5 truck races at Las Vegas that were the same distance in 134 laps. 3 of those races had 25 caution laps. 1 had 15 caution laps, and another one had 32 caution laps. In the 2 races last year, the spring race had 48 caution laps, and the fall race had 39 caution laps. So on an average, you're losing about 13.5 fastest lap points that are available. So do some quick math here. 33.5 plus 60.3. You're looking at 93.8 potential fastest lap point or potential Dominator points. Take away your average of 13.5, and you're looking at 80.3 Dominator points for this race. I think most of those go to Kyle Busch. And then 1 second. Lost my spot here. Can't find it. As far as dominators go, pretty much only playing Kyle Busch and 5 place differential plays. I could potentially see like a second dominator, where pricing is going to be really interesting. Pricing is always interesting when you have Kyle Busch in here. But another thing about Kyle Busch, he has ran almost 24,000 laps in a truck, and he's led a third of those laps. So if you round up 24,000 laps, he has led 8,000 of those laps. I don't really see anybody else dominating this race. That's just, I mean, John Hunter Nemechek potentially, but outside of the KBM trucks, or outside of Thor Sport, or like the Toyota trucks in general, none of them guys are going to put up fast laps. You might see some out of Ryan Preece or Zane Smith, and Carson Hocevar and Grant Enfinger definitely have the best Chevys in the field, but I just don't see these Fords or Chevys competing with the Toyotas. That's really all I got this early in the week, so please like, share, comment, subscribe, and then look for the Xfinity video to be up here soon. I'll have a short Cup video as well. Cup's going to be kind of iffy for a little bit here. But follow me on Twitter and Facebook at ThesDFS. That's where I'll post my core plays and my favorite bets, and good luck this week.